want to show you a couple of videos. First, let me show you this one. These are families. We're seeing young kids, women for the most part, some babies, some toddlers running. This is happening down in Mexican southern border in the state of Chiapas. Chiapas has been seeing a spike in violence in the recent years, probably. The biggest spike probably happened right after 2021 when they killed one of the leaders of the Sinaloa cartel down there. But let me give you some other details after running this other video for you guys so you can understand what are they running from. Allegedly, members of the Mayo Zambara faction down in Guatemala, right at the border with Mexico in Chiapas. And also, another thing, watch this other video. These are allegedly members of the rival cartel, Cartel Jalisco Nueva Generación, down in a small town called Comalapa in Chiapas, in the border with Guatemala. So we have Sinaloa cartel in Guatemala, Cartel Jalisco Nueva Generación in Chiapas. The Sinaloa cartel, particularly the Mayo Zambara faction, also has a lot of presence in Chiapas, and also the Cartel Jalisco Nueva Generación have strong presence in Guatemala. It is an invisible border, to be honest. It's not like the U.S.-Mexican border that it does exist. It's very visible, although it's not stopping anyone or drugs or whatever from going back and forth. The Mexican southern border with Guatemala, it's even worse. It's just an invisible border divided by a river that no one really cares about. It's not really watched over by both of the country policemen. And Chiapas is seeing an ugly spike in violence since 2021. Let me first give you the official version of things. Allegedly, after June 2021, when alleged members of the Cartel Jalisco Nueva Generación killed Ramón Gilberto Rivera Beltrán, who was the alleged leader of the Cartel de Sinaloa, Mayo Zambara faction operating in Chiapas, violence escalated. This official version basically says that Cartel Jalisco killed a leader, then the Sinaloa cartel responded back with heavy fire. Also, we're seeing major fucking weaponry on those videos. The guys of the Cartel Jalisco Nueva Generación are pulling out this Barrett with scope vision, which is not usual. We're seeing it more and more in different places by different factions and different cartels. But this is not, your regular cuerno de chivo. This is something major. Also, on that video by the Malliza in Guatemala, we're seeing also some major weaponry right there. So again, the official version says that it is a cartel against another one. Why? Well, they're allegedly wanting to control the turf of Chiapas, because yeah, it is true that on the border between Guatemala and Chiapas, a lot of illegal products come up and down, right? A lot of weapons are also making their way into Mexico by Mexican southern border, like Chiapas and Guatemala, mostly weapons coming from Europe, like Russia or Germany, and but also a lot of precursors. We recently read these indictment against a Guatemalan woman being the main point of contact between the Sinaloa cartel and the Chinese mafia controlling precursors to cook fentanyl. So a lot of stuff happening down there, but Chiapas hides some other, probably more profitable businesses. Chiapas has a lot of natural resources And international mining companies have a lot of interest in this territory. They've had that interest for several decades. But right now, I think they now are ready to jump to get the mineral out of Chiapas soil. Mostly silver, a lot of silver, but many other minerals. And also, I don't think it's a coincidence that right when the US and Mexican government, the administrations of President Joe Biden and Presidente Andrés Manuel López Obrador reached a truce to deal with illegal immigration, they agreed to stop Mexico or the Mexican northern border to be the center for all these migrants arriving to Mexico wanted to get across the border, and let me be clear, lawfully through an asylum system that it's not working, it's inexistent right now. They agreed to move all these people, relocate them down to Mexico's southern border in Chiapas. So Chiapas is now a hotspot. And another profitable business is, of course, first of all, immigration. I think this is the real reason that we're seeing different groups trying to control this area. Number one, they're trying to heat also that region because we're going to see a lot of migrants. And what is the best or probably the worst, the Terrans' message to migrants? Then don't cross this fucking border because we are seeing major drug cartels fighting, right? The Terrans, again, against immigrants. Second, that first video where we're seeing a lot of families being displaced from their homes, they literally are carrying whatever they could get from their houses to get out. Because these groups are literally saying, families, women, men, children, get the fuck out of this land because we're gonna use it to fight. Which again, very suspicious, right? This is exactly what a mining company wants. This is exactly what a government cooperating with foreign mining companies wants, right? They want cheap or free territory. They don't want opposition. They don't want people, like locals, making demonstrations or whatever to stop the mining companies from doing what they do best, which is a lot of contamination, a lot of displacement, and those stories that we've seen over and over in different parts of Mexico. So I think we're going to keep reading about Chiapas for a good while. Remember, Chiapas also has a history of the major guerrilla that we saw in Mexico, the Cjng, that for the most part right now it's very quiet. They're concentrated on their own activities inside themselves, inside the group for their own communities. But let's not forget that they are there. They are a huge guerrilla movement with a lot of international reach, and that Chiapas also is home of the first and only indigenous drug cartel, El Cartel Chamula. It's a criminal organization composed in its entirety by local indigenous people, descendants from the Mayans. Some interesting stuff is about to happen in Chiapas, and we need to be with an eye on this territory because these affects us in Mexico and in the US, right? It has to do with immigration, it has to do with mining companies, it has to do with the economics, and it has to do with tourism as well. So let's keep an eye on the following developments down in Chiapas. I really feel bad and saddened and mad for what they're doing to these very vulnerable families down there.